Hey gorgeous soul, welcome to Advanced Energy Protection. This is your video lesson for the kits that also includes the MP3 meditation, the workbook, and if you're a part of the circle then you also have my support on the Facebook group or via email if you're not on Facebook. So this is a topic that's very, very close to my heart. If you are familiar with my work, if this is not the first time you've heard of me, then you may have heard me talk about energy protection once or twice, or like 5 million times before. It's something that I feel so passionately about, and without going into all of the stories in more detail, if you are totally brand new to energy protection before we go into like everything else, that's okay. All of this stuff is still going to be really useful for you, but you may want to revisit some of the kind of basic energy protection stuff as well if you have never worked with energy protection before. You can do that by checking out my totally free ebook that's on my website. It's called How to Stay Shiny, and it's all about, it's really like I think I've called it like a quick start guide to energetic and spiritual protection, and that's basically exactly what it is. It is a list of lots of different tools and tips that you can be using to protect your energy and why it's important to be doing that. There's also Woo Woo 101, which if you're totally brand new to spirituality, then I really recommend that you check that course out. It has a whole unit on energy protection, and then we also go into grounding and clearing and all of that good stuff too. But if you haven't done all of that, it's still okay, stay with me. I'm sure you're going to get loads out of this anyway. So as I was saying, energy protection is something I'm super passionate about, and the reason for that is because it has just helped me in my life so much. It was really like the number one thing that helped me to be able to start not just understanding my own energy and working with my own energy, but it also helped me to begin to connect with my guides, my intuition, my angels, and really it's the thing that sent me on this path. I've got cats fighting behind me. It's the thing that really set me on this path. It's like, you know, if I can look back at my path and say, okay, what was the thing that really kind of kicked it all off for me? It was protecting my own energy. And it sounds really boring and it sounds really simple, and you'd be surprised though how many people don't do it. How many people are not, can't be bothered to protect their energy. And then, you know, I talk to people all the time who say that they feel like they're intuitive, they feel like they should be able to read their own cards, they should be able to know their next step, that they're really struggling to be able to do it. And I always say to people, like, protect your energy. Same thing, you know, I get so many clients coming in for readings who are trying to make decisions about things, you know, which path do I go down, like what do I choose? And a lot of the time the answers are about protecting your own energy, because we're so influenced by so many different things in this world. We have social media, we have friends and family telling us what we should be doing with our lives, we have society, we have programming from when we were little kids, we have all this stuff from our past lives. We are basically just these big sponges walking around absorbing everything that everybody else says and does, and it's no wonder that we feel confused when we're trying to make a decision, right? So for me, you know, I tell this story in a few different places, so I won't go into it in like huge detail here. But basically what happened for me was I was really struggling in a work situation. There's a lot of energy. At the time, I didn't really have the language to be able to really describe it in spiritual or energetic terms, but I was feeling really low. I was feeling really down at work, and it was really a challenging place to be. And that was kind of when I got on this path of, okay, well, how do I work with my energy? It's just something I can be doing. I'd been spiritual for years and years, so that wasn't a new thing, but I'd never really worked with protecting my energy before. And as soon as I did it, not only did it change things in my workplace, and interestingly enough, like, it helped me to leave that job. Like, once I'd done the work I needed to do, I could then leave that job and start to kind of go off on this path, this crazy path. But, you know, more than that, it was like, without doing anything extra, I was suddenly more intuitive. I was connecting with my guides and angels. They were coming in. It was like they suddenly had the space to be able to do that. So when I talk about energy protection, it's not just so that you can deal with your boss that you know drains the life out of you or whatever. It's not just so that you can do your cards and feel safe doing your spiritual work. It's really also about so much more than that. It's about you really getting into alignment with your own energy and having the space to be able to do that, and everything will start to fall into place and everything will become so much clearer and so much easier in your life. And if it doesn't for some reason, send me an email and we talk about why that's not happening. Okay, so let's begin by just talking about what is energy protection. I've written down some notes, so I'll be referring to those. So what I've written for what is energy protection is it's working with our energy in a way that prevents us from being affected by energy that is outside of us and isn't ours. There's a lot of misconceptions around energy protection, and one of those things is that if you're protecting your energy, you'll never have to deal with anything negative or difficult again. I wish, kind of. It's really not like that. Your energy protection work will it will help you to stop bringing in things that aren't yours to deal with, but it's not going to help you to stop dealing with the things that are yours to deal with. We all have a shadow side. We all have negative traits. We all have things within us that we have to work through and we have to deal with, and some of those are negative. And it's really important that we don't get, I've seen people do this so many times, where we get into this idea that anything negative in our lives is somebody else's. And so we have to cut and protect and clear and do all of this work so that we don't have to deal with that. What energy protection will help you to do is it will help you to be discerning. It will help you to know whether this is somebody else's stuff or whether this is actually your stuff to deal with. So as far as I'm concerned, energy protection is about let's get rid of and protect ourselves from the things that aren't ours so that we can do the work on the things that are ours, and we can do our own work instead of kind of getting into this place where we're constantly doing work for everybody else that is just really unnecessary. So the difference between basic energy protection and advanced energy protection is what I really want to talk about in this video and in this kit this month in a circle. Basic energy protection is things like affirmations, visualizations, using crystals as protective objects. All of that stuff is really, really great, and it's a really great starting point. But it is not the be all and end all of your energy protection. Advanced energy protection, and I'm going to read this straight from my notes because I thought this was cool. And advanced energy protection is raising your awareness and working with your energy at a higher level of consciousness to bring more peace, ease, flow, and surrender into your life, no matter what is happening around you. Energy protection doesn't change the world around you. It changes you. It changes the way that you react to things. It changes the way that you move through the world. It changes the way that you respond. It doesn't stop things from happening outside of yourself. And in an ideal world, we could totally, well, not really an ideal world, because there's so many reasons why there's so many different things happening on this planet. But it's not our job to change everybody else. It's just our job to do the work on ourselves. And that is basically what energy protection is. It's about doing the work on yourself so that whatever anybody else is doing in the world, it doesn't become your stuff. So, yeah, energy protection isn't never being affected by anything ever again. It's just being in this place, in creating your energy, making your energy into this beautiful kind of safe space where no matter if someone cuts you off at traffic, or if your boss at work is being really difficult, you're having a challenging situation with a friend or a lover or anybody else in your life, when you're doing your protection work, all of that stuff just becomes so much easier to deal with because you're not taking on all of that person's stuff. We can talk a little bit about what it means to be an empath, but I feel like maybe we can talk about that in the group, or you can, if you are unfamiliar with the term empath, go and do some Googling. But basically an empath is somebody who really does feel the weight of the world. You really absorb everything that's kind of going on. And I kind of became aware of the fact that I was an empath when I was at this job. And I would feel a certain way when I was at work, and then when I got in the car to go home, I'd feel completely different. And that was kind of one of my big signs. It was like, hey, something's going on here. It's not just like I'm a miserable person all the time. I'm just a miserable person when I'm at work. And then I thought, well, is it my job? And then I had to do some thinking about that, and it felt like, actually, no, it's not my job. Like, I love most of my job, but there is something that's going on here that's making me feel really, really different and really grumpy and miserable and all of these different things. And, you know, it was kind of only a bit later when I really understood what it meant to be an empath that I realized I'd just been taking on like so much of everybody else's stuff the whole time. I'd been surrounding myself with people who were really negative, and so I become negative. And so if you're an empath, like, that's the kind of thing that you will find happening. You'll be around certain people and you'll feel a certain way, and then you'll go spend some time with other people and you feel really differently. Being an empath, I like to say that it's a gift, but I also very much feel like everybody on this planet is an empath. It's just that a lot of us have found some really good ways of kind of numbing out and closing off, whether it is through our behavior, whether it's through, you know, keeping people at a distance, whether it's through drinking, drugs. Like, there's all sorts of ways that people have kind of numbed out to their you know, ability to be an empath. But there's lots of great things about being an empath. It means that, you know, you can help people. You can do things like being a tarot reader or a counselor. You can do things like that because you really, you know, have this ability to understand how other people are feeling. But it's really important that whether you're an empath or that's not something that you sort of would call yourself, we can only really help other people when we are protected. Otherwise, we end up taking on everybody else's stuff. And I see this happen all the time with people who do tarot readings or other sorts of spiritual work, where you work all day and then you're absolutely exhausted because you've really taken on too much of everybody else's energy. You know, it's part of the reason that I don't do a lot of readings anymore, because the energy is really intense, and the more that I read, the deeper I seem to go for people. And so I go really deep these days, and I can't go that deep that often. And so one of my ways of energetically protecting myself is to not do too much of that work anymore. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about the basics of energy protection and like how they work. Like, why does this work? Like, why does visualizing a shield of light around you actually work? And there's a few different ways of thinking about this and looking at this. I'm going to share, as always, I'm just sharing my opinion and my thoughts on this. If yours is different, then that's absolutely just as valid, and it's probably the truth for you, so go with what resonates with you always. But for me, the way that I see the basic stuff is that it's not so much about, oh, I've created this shield of light around me and now nothing can get to me. It is about setting intention, and it's about changing the way that you are moving through the world and the way that you're seeing the world. So while I'm all for working with our aura and doing beautiful things to our aura, I don't fully believe that it's the shield itself, like it's the visualization itself that is creating the change. The visualization is really just the tool that we use to set the intention, and it's really the intention that creates the change. So, using a crystal, for example, I'm holding on to a selenite ball. I'm like in love with selenite at the moment. I can't get enough of it. So for me, this is just like a little example. For me, I'm like feeling really, really drawn to this stone at the moment, and to sit down and make this video, I just felt like I really wanted to have it in my hand so that I could speak clearly. I felt like it was going to help me to connect to my higher self and my guides and my angels while I spoke, so that I could really get the information through. But it's not like the crystal is actually doing that for me. It's the intention that I'm setting, and it's the idea that I'm going to hold this and this is going to happen. That's me making that magic. That's me setting those intentions, and that's me creating that energy. So when we are sitting in meditation and we're visualizing a shield of light around us, yes, we are creating a shield of light around us to protect our energy. But more than that, what we're doing is we are setting an intention, and we're saying to ourselves and to the universe, today I am protected, and today nothing that isn't mine can harm me or get into my fields. And that's just a really powerful thing to do, like to just set that intention. Because when you do that, it's almost like you're flipping a switch in your mind that is telling you you are protected and nothing's going to get you. Nothing negative is going to get in. And once you have that belief, if you start moving through the world with that belief of like, I'm just going to do my thing, I'm just going to send out love, and nobody else's stuff can get to me, then that's what really creates the change in your energy, more than the crystal that's in your pocket or the shield that you visualized. I used to be a really big fan of visualizing the shield, and I still do it all the time. But I've found that more and more as I do this work, I don't have to do the process of sitting down and visualizing my grounding cord and visualizing me clear and visualizing this and that and like visualizing all these things. I've got to a point now where I can kind of just roll out of, and I still do my spiritual practice, of course, but I can kind of just roll out of bed and say, I'm good. Like, it's all good. Like, stuff that's not mine can't affect me. I might just touch on this briefly. I haven't really got it on my notes, but I will just touch on it briefly. The idea that doing this protective work actually sort of, in a way, creates like a fear. And for some people, and I find that there's very few people that think like this, but it may be you watching this. For some people, focusing on energy protection doesn't really work. They don't like the idea of that because it makes them feel like there's something to fear. So in truth, what those people are really doing is they're still protecting their energy, but they're protecting their energy through the belief that they don't need to protect their energy, which is really cool. And so if that's you, if you're just like, Vix, I don't do any of this stuff and I feel fine all the time, then that's great. But stay with me, because there's lots of other things that I want to talk about to do with energy protection as well. But go with what works. Like, if a visualization doesn't work for you, if take whatever resonates with this video and this this unit, this kit. Take what resonates, leave the rest. Use this as an opportunity to really think about your own energy protection. Don't just do what I do. Don't just do what somebody else does. Use all of the information that's out there to really just create what works for you. And if you're doing something and it's not working, do something else. If you're doing something and it is working, yay. Okay. Yeah, so for me, the basics is really about setting that intention. We're giving those things the power. Like, we are giving our crystals power. We are giving that affirmation or that visualization power. We are creating that from the inside out. So it's really important to remember that you are the one that creates the magic. It's not the crystals. It's not the tarot decks. It's not the shield that you're visualizing around you. It's what's inside of you that's creating those outcomes. Okay. So let's talk about advanced energy protection. 20 minutes in, classic Vix. Okay, so what is it? What does it mean to go the next step and to start working with this energy in an advanced way? So the first thing for me, it's about taking responsibility. I cannot tell you how much it really drives me crazy, and I try to protect myself and not let it get to me, but sometimes it still does because I'm human. When people don't take responsibility for their own energy, when people do the shielding and they do the affirmations, but then they are still in this kind of energy where they're blaming other people for all the stuff that's happening to them. They're blaming other people for however they're feeling during the day. This is not advanced energy protection. This is really, really basic stuff. You're not an advanced practitioner if you are blaming other people for what's coming in. Now, let me just mention at this point that there is a big difference between being a victim, getting into victim energy when it's about little petty things that are like, okay, you're just being the victim now. This is what I'm going to talk about in this video. What I'm not talking about is when you are a victim in a situation where you're actually being abused, somebody is harming you, somebody is trying to hurt you. There are some of these things are similar that you need to do if you're in that situation, but if you are in that situation, as much as the visualizations and the advanced energy protection can help you to a point, if you're in a situation where you are not safe, please get safe physically. That is the most important thing for you to do. It doesn't matter how many angels you call in, although do that as well. You need to get yourself safe. That needs to be your priority. So I just want to really make sure that you understand that there's a difference between, something has happened to you which is not your fault, because things do happen in this world that aren't our fault. We are often in the wrong time at the wrong place. We could go into a whole thing about, well, does everything happen for a reason or not? This isn't the video for that. But I just want you to know that if you're in a situation where you don't feel safe, get yourself safe physically. And then once you're safe physically, then we can start to talk about what you need to do energetically to keep yourself safe energetically. But these are often two different things. And I think this is something that we don't always talk about when we're talking about energy protection. We don't always talk about the fact that protecting your energy doesn't always mean that you are going to be safe physically. We live in a 3D world where there is billions of other people out there making choices that will affect us, just as our choices affect other people. And we cannot just walk through this world thinking that because we did our visualizations this morning, nothing's going to happen to us ever. So yeah, just remember that we are living in a 3D world, and if something does happen to you, if you are harmed in some way, whether it's emotionally, physically, whatever it is, please don't think that it's your fault. Please don't think that it's your fault because you didn't do good enough energy protection. Get yourself safe, and then, then we can work with our energy from there. It's just not always the same thing. And my personal belief on this, again, go with what resonates with you, but my personal belief is that I have this kind of feeling that when I signed up to come for this life, and probably all my other lives, that you kind of get this, you get a little talk, and in the talk it's like, that this is not going to be 100% safe. There's going to be dangers, and there's going to be, it's going to be some really big challenges, and are you aware of the risks, basically? And you've got to sign, tick the box and sign your name. Yes, I am aware of the risks. So that's kind of how it feels for me being here. It's like, I know that this energy protection stuff can really, really help, and it has changed my life, but it hasn't, it hasn't stopped people from barging me in the street. It hasn't stopped things like that from happening. It's not about that. It is about your energy and making your energy into this into this thing that can protect you as much as it can energetically, and it can do the best it can. But we have to understand that we are having a 3D experience. So once again, if you're unsafe, get yourself safe. Okay. Now I can continue. Sorry that went on for a long time, but I just really want you to understand, and I want it to just be really clear of what I'm trying to say here, because I see a lot people kind of talking about energy protection as if it's going to somehow make them completely invincible. Like, nothing's going to get me. And it kind of does to a point. Okay, so the thing I wanted to talk about is taking responsibility. And like I said, there are times when it's not our fault. There's a lot of times when it is, and that's what I really want to talk about. We have to take responsibility for our own energy. We have to take responsibility for what we put out as well as what we draw in. This is something we don't always talk about when we're talking about the basics of energy protection. We don't always talk about watch what you put out, because what you put out has just as much effect on what comes in as all of your spells and your woo-woo beautiful visualizations, whatever you're doing to protect your energy. You can do that all you like, but if you're being unkind to people, if you're putting out negative energy, if you are like slamming people on the internet, if you're doing all of this stuff, then your shields are going to go down. Like, your shields are just going to disappear. I've seen that happen time and time again, and I have done that myself. I've experienced it myself, in how quickly that can change and how quickly you can feel as if your energy is not protected when you start to send out daggers. We have to remember that we also do this. We also send out daggers. We also send out negative energy. We are not perfect people who have our heart chakra open and we're only sending love 24 hours a day. That is often what we're aiming for, and that is like our intention, but we are human and it doesn't always work like that. I see it so often where people talk about energy vampires and like toxic people and toxic energy, and I just want to talk about that for a minute. When you call somebody else an energy vampire, it doesn't matter what you're doing to your energy, you're putting out some pretty harsh vibes with that kind of language. Now, it may feel that there are people out there who are energy vampires. It may feel there are people out there who are draining you. It may feel like there are people out there who are against you in some way. They're sending you bad vibes, energetic daggers, like all sorts of things. And we have a choice of how we look at that. We can look at that as, wow, those people are energy vampires and they're so bad and mean, and why are they trying to hurt me, and get into that victim mode. Or we can try, and it's not always easy, but we can try to look at those people as people who are hurting, people who are disconnected, people who are just not in alignment with their own soul. Or maybe they are. I don't know what their like, I don't know what their sole purpose is and what they came to experience. But once we start to look at those people we're calling energy vampires, and we start to look at them with a bit of love and compassion, that changes everything. That will shift your energy. That is advanced energy protection. Looking at those people who are driving us crazy, who are really challenging us, looking at them with love and saying, wow, this person comes to work every day and it feels like they're here just to make my life miserable. What kind of life must this person have if they are going so out of their way to upset other people? They're obviously not very happy. And why are they not very happy? Well, something must have happened to them at some point to make them not a very happy person. They must be disconnected. Maybe they don't have a lot of love in their life. And then when we start to do that, we can begin to understand that actually what this person is like throwing at us, or what they're trying to take from us, it doesn't come from a place of, I'm an energy vampire and I'm going to come and steal all your energy and hurt you because I can, haha. It comes from a place of them just trying to ground somewhere, and trying, they see the light, and it'd be nice if they could just come up and be like, hey, I want to be friends because you're so bright and shiny. But a lot of people don't have the language or the experience or the ability to be able to do that. And so what happens a lot of the time is people, they get close to us because they can see that we're living, maybe a bit more in alignment than they are, and it looks shiny, and they want a part of it. The other thing is that people see that and they want to destroy it because they don't have that. And the best thing that you can do is to try to understand. And, there are people who are narcissists, there are people who are abusers, who we don't have to try and understand those people. We just have to get away from them. We just have to keep ourselves safe. But there are also people in this world who, could really just use some love. One thing that I found really useful when I've been in a situation with someone who it feels as if they are sending me a lot of bad vibes is, instead of just putting up the shield and letting the bad vibes bounce off, one thing I found really useful is almost lowering my shields a little bit and just opening up my heart chakra and just beaming love. Just beam so much love to that person and see them doing well and see them having a good life and wishing them well and praying for their happiness and their peace. That will make you feel a million times better than just putting up that shield and letting things bounce off. But you've got to do what feels good for you, and you've got to do what feels safe for you. For some people, that isn't going to feel safe, and that's okay. You've got to do what you've got to do. But if you've tried the shielding and you've tried all of the traditional techniques with energy protection and you're still dealing with someone who's really hard to deal with, try the love approach. You can also do things where you can talk to their higher self, if they will allow you to do that. And when I'm doing that, what I do is I send my awareness to my own higher self up in my soul star chakra, and then I visualize that person kind of their soul star chakra, and I see our soul stars kind of having a conversation. And that can bring a lot of light to the situation as well. If they will allow you, sometimes they won't, and that's okay too. But yeah, love is like everything when it comes to energy work. You can protect yourself like up the wazoo. You can do everything in your power. You can wear all the crystals and like have all of the herbs in your pocket and do all of that stuff. But if you are still in an energy of, I've got to protect myself against those people because those people have bad energy and it's coming to me, it will still be useful, but it will only get you so far. It's only when you can start to really open up your heart and send love to those people that you really will feel like a new shift and a new energy. And I know so many of you are probably doing that already, but I feel like it's just such a big part of the energy work. Okay, so let's talk about separateness and ego, because this is something that is a big challenge. And when we first start working with energy protection, when I first started working with energy protection, I had to really keep myself separate from other people because I had been absorbing so much of everybody else's stuff. So my first step was to step away and get clear on who I am and what my energy looks like without being influenced by everyone else's stuff. Once you're able to do that, your next step is to understand that we're not separate, we're all the same, and that we're all one. That doesn't mean that we need to be feeding off each other's negativity or accepting all of the drama and all of the stuff that we don't want from other people. But understanding that we're all one is a really, really cool way to start to feel like you're protected and that other people's stuff can't get to you. One thing that I like to do is this little activity. I used to get on public transport a lot for work, and I find that really, really challenging, especially in London. If you're on the tube, you're like so close to people at rush hour. You're in a sardine, like it's like you're in a tin of sardines. And I used to find it really difficult to stay in my bubble when I was in that energy, because I couldn't work out where my bubble started and the next person started. So I was always kind of like, oh, I'm in my bubble, but people are in my bubble. So how do I stay in my bubble? So that was always kind of a big challenge for me. And I used to try different things to kind of feel better. But one time I was walking through the tube tunnels in London, and I thought, what if instead of putting up my shields, I lowered my shields a little bit, still keep part of your shields up. I lowered my shields a little bit, and I started to see all of these people that are here, instead of seeing them as like the enemy or people that I don't want near me or don't want touching me. What if I started to see these people as the same as me? And so I walked through London with this mantra of, we are all one, we are all the same, we are all one, we are all the same. And oh my goodness, like the shift in energy from doing that was incredible. Like I just felt completely different than all those days where I'd just been trying to shield and get off me, and I don't want your aura near me, and I don't want your energy near me, versus we're all the same, we're all one. It made me feel like we were all connected and that we were all feeling the same way. You know, it's not just me that's on the tube feeling like I don't want people to touch me, it's everybody. It's the person next to me. The person next to me is like, oh, I want this girl to touch me. And when we start to really see it like that, and we start to really think, oh my goodness, like it's not just about me, everybody's feeling the same, then that shifts everything. And I still do that sometimes when I'm on the tube, especially if I'm feeling a little bit like heavy energetically. We are all one. And then there's other things you can do too. We can visualize yourself sending love. I'm always doing this on the train. So if you're over on the train carriage with me, like get excited. I very often just sit on the tube or on the train and I close my eyes and I just beam love at everybody else who's on the train. And it just makes you feel so good, and hopefully it makes everyone else feel so good too. So that's a really big one, like moving away from the I'm shielding, I'm protecting in this way of like, I just want to be alone and I don't want anybody in my fields, I don't want anyone to touch me, into kind of this next level, which is really about understanding that actually we're all the same and we all feel the same. And yeah, it just feels so different and so good. But you got to do what works, and you might try to do that and you might feel overwhelmed. So do what works. And there may be different days, or maybe days where you're like, you know what, today all I can handle is to be in my own bubble and just get through this day. And then there may be other days where you're like, I'm going to send love and light to everybody and it's going to be awesome. So go with how you feel and what works. And just going back to the love thing, I wanted to talk a little bit about, actually no, I'll talk about that at the end. I'm going to talk about like the spiritual kind of spiritual protection, which I feel like all this protection stuff is the same. It's the way you protect yourself with other people should be the exact same way you protect yourself when you're doing spiritual work. So it's all, to me, it's all like this. I use the same tools. I do it all in the same way, but I'm going to kind of talk specifically about spiritual protection at the end. Okay, so some of the other tools that I wanted to talk about, that we are all one, when you're in a really heavy kind of place where there's a lot of people around, that's really useful. A couple of other tools, one of them is, it's really important that we take back our power and we stand in our power when it comes to protecting our energy. And we have to understand that we make certain choices, and our choices can affect the way that we feel quite a lot. One thing that I'm really working on at the moment, and have been for a while now, but I'm getting better at it, is the way in which I work with social media. And I think so many of us can relate to this now, because social media is such a huge, big thing at the moment. And if you're not on social media, then you're already doing this, and that's amazing. But for a lot of us, we sit on social media and we're scrolling or whatever, and we start to have like different sorts of feelings about things, and we look at one person's post and we're like, oh, I wish I was skinnier. Or we look at someone else's yoga post, you know, I had to unfollow so many yoga posts. You know, oh, I wish I could do that yoga position. People who are really into like fashion, so I had to unfollow so many of them as well. Oh, they've always got new clothes. Oh, they're always doing this. And, you know, it can start to get a little bit like energetically heavy. And one thing that I feel like we don't always think about when we're on social media or online is that we are absorbing energy just as much from online as we are when we go out and see people. But we have a choice. Now, you can do some cool spiritual stuff with your phone and your laptop. I do this a lot. I sage my phone and my laptop, although I'm trying not to use sage anymore, so I use like incense stick or rosemary or, you know, whatever else. But I will use that as like a cleanse. So I'll cleanse my laptop and I'll cleanse my phone. Sometimes I wipe down my phone with like some essential oils and things like that, and it feels really good. I do things like I visualize the cosmic diamond violet flame moving through my phone and my laptop and all of the groups that I'm in and all of that stuff. There's all these really beautiful things you can do. You can create shields of light around your Instagram account, around your laptop, you know, whatever you want to do, you can do all of that stuff, and it does really work. But what works even better than that is turning off your phone. And saying, I don't need to be absorbing this right now. I don't need to be looking at this right now. This is what energy protection is. It's about making choices for your energy. What is the best choice you can make for your energy right now? It's not really enough to do your shielding and then scroll all day. Unless you are somebody who's very magical and you feel like you can do that. For most of us, we can't. For most of us, we can't just do a quick shielding in the morning and then sit on Facebook and not be affected by anything. But what we can do is we can make healthy choices about how often we're online. And so some things that I've started doing is really setting some boundaries. And setting boundaries is like the best thing you can do for your energy protection. Set your boundaries. If you don't have good boundaries, you don't have good energy protection. It doesn't matter how magical you are, how magical your tools are, how good your meditations are, how many archangels you call in to stand by you during the day. If you don't have good boundaries, you don't have good energy protection. So some things I've done is I try to not check my phone after dinner. And I say try because I'm still learning and I'm still getting better at this. I try to have every Sunday totally off social media. That has been kind of a mess lately because I've been traveling and doing other things. But now that I'm back home, I'm going to really try to do that again. I've also been thinking about doing whole weekends off social media and just saying on the weekend I'm not on social media. Why not? I always feel so good when I have a Sunday off social media. I come back on a Monday and I'm like, oh, I'm excited to see my messages and I'm excited to see what everybody else has been doing. Whereas if I'm checking, you know, a couple of times a day and I'm scrolling and whatever, like it starts to feel really heavy. The other thing you need to do, of course, is think about who you follow online. And if there's people that you follow, even if they're your best friends in the world, and they're consistently posting negativity or stuff that just you don't want to see, it brings you down in some way, you can put those people on pause, you can hide them from your feed, you can even unfollow them if you feel like you need to. But we need to be doing that because we are absorbing so much from so many places, and we need to take some responsibility for that, and we need to make we need to take action to change that. And this is true. This is also true of spending time with people in real life. If you are like me and you've had one of these situations where you're spending time with people who are really, really negative, you have a choice of what you can do. You can stop hanging out with those people so much, or you can keep hanging out with them, but you can just make a really concerted effort not to get involved in the bitching and the negativity, which is something that I try to do when I'm hanging out with negative people as much as I can, because we're all still, in the process of trying to work all this out. But it's really important that we understand that energy protection is not just about what crystal you have in your pocket, it's about what choices you're making in your life. And I feel like, this is why I felt really called to do the topic this month, because I see so many people who are like talking about cord cutting, and they're talking about cord cutting in like the most negative ways, or they're talking about energy vampires and like, cut that bitch out of your life and stuff like that. It's just like, what? Like, that doesn't help. Saying those things doesn't help. Might make you feel really good in the moment, but as far as an energy protection tool goes, sending anybody negative vibes, it just doesn't work. As soon as you start to send negativity out, your shields are down. You're done. Like, you might as well not even bother. And of course, it is a journey, and it is something that we're all practicing and we're all learning. So you just got to be where you're at with it, and you've just got to start to really think about what you're sending out in all these different ways. It seems like it's really cool at the moment to kind of say fuck it, and fuck this, and fuck that, and like fuck you, and like I'm cutting cords with you, and like you're out of my life. And there's a time and a place where you probably do need to go through those emotions, especially if it's raw and you're hurting and whatever, maybe that's the place that you need to be. But I'm really, like, it really does concern me that it's cool in some spiritual memes that are like really kind of negative, and everyone like has a laugh and whatever, but it's not really, it's kind of not really funny. And it really doesn't help you. It really doesn't help us at all to be in any kind of negativity. And if we do get into negativity, the best thing we can do is just love ourselves through it and say, kind of went there today. That was interesting. I wonder what that was about. Try to understand why you went there. Maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was the people you were spending time with and you just picked it up. Identify it, understand it, give yourself some love, and then, make a decision to maybe try to be more loving next time. Okay, so yes, setting boundaries is everything. You got to do it. Self-care is also one of the ultimate energy protection techniques. You got to be looking after yourself. One thing that came through really clearly when I was kind of like preparing for this, to make this video, my guide said really clearly that if we're not looking after ourselves, if we're not doing our self-care, our aura becomes really thin. And when our aura becomes really thin, we are just so much more susceptible to all of the negative stuff that's in the world and in the universe than usual. So it's really important that we do look after ourselves, because we want our auras to be big and bright. And when we're not looking after ourselves and our auras are getting thin and they're getting smaller, it just makes everything else so much harder. And then it starts to be like, doesn't matter what you're doing with your energy, just stuff is getting in all of the time. But you have to be really, we all have to be really discerning when it comes to self-care, because there's a lot of weird self-care messages out there at the moment about, just like sitting in a bath for 3 hours is self-care. Self-care is a lot more than that. Self-care is, of course, about resting and giving yourself time and space to just rest and recover and just be, and that's really, really important. But self-care is also things like eating well and flossing your teeth. And yeah, so there's a lot of things that come in with self-care. You know what your self-care is. If you don't, there's a kit on self-care which you can check out. That's got loads of info about, like what self-care really is. Yeah, but I'll let you do your own work on that. The final thing that I wanted to talk about before I kind of go more into the spiritual stuff, this video is so long, is self-worth. And this is probably the one that has the potential to kind of hit a little bit hard for some people. But again, this felt like it was really channeled. Most people who struggle with energy protection also struggle with their own self-worth. And if you can start to see yourself as a worthy being and somebody who deserves to have a good life and good things and to be happy and to be free and to have the freedom to go out into the world without being involved in any drama or whatever, that will really, really help a lot. And it feels a little bit harsh to say it because, you know, people who are struggling with their self-worth stuff, it can be really hard to hear that that you really need to fix that in order for you to be able to protect your energy more. But it's like they're kind of showing me that it works in tandem. So if you are somebody who feels like you feel the weight of the world and it's like everybody always wants stuff from you and you feel like you're you're not protected at all energetically and everybody's getting in all the time, then just start to do both of these things. Start to work with the visualizations, start to work with affirmations. I am safe, nothing can get in that's not in alignment with my best and highest good, whatever you want to do. But also start to really look at your self-worth stuff. And this is even for people who you may kind of have the appearance that you really do have a lot of self-worth and a lot of self-love going on, but maybe you don't really. Maybe it is actually something that you're still struggling with. I think we're all struggling with our self-worth in some way. But when we understand that self-worth and energy protection are they're so linked. If you don't think that you're valuable, if you don't think that you're worth being able to walk out in the world and have a day where nobody pisses you off or upsets you or wants something from you, if you don't think that if you don't believe that you really deserve to have a day like that, then it can be very difficult to walk through the world and have a day like that. And so believing that you and everybody else has the right to peace, that is like a really big part of this advanced energy protection stuff. And it's a really hard one to kind of accept for some of us. But it's really, really important that we start to think of ourselves as being worthy. Because if you don't feel like you're worthy of being protected and safe as you move through this world, if you don't feel like you're worthy of having a peaceful existence and receiving all the abundance that you need and not having anybody else try to take that away from you, it's very difficult to create that in your life. And it really just comes down to belief and what you believe about yourself. And it's very easy to change beliefs about yourself. You just write them down and you burn them and then you write a new one down. They're showing me, I don't know who this is for, but they're showing me like you write down your old beliefs, like, whatever it is. I believe that I'm not worthy of having a peaceful existence. You write that down, you burn it, and you write down, I do believe that I am worthy of having a peaceful existence or a peaceful day. And this is what they're showing me, so just go with it. They're showing me that you fold it up and you put it in your bra. And you walk around your day with that. I don't know who that's for. It's probably not for everyone. I know we have some people in this group who probably don't wear bras. You can put it in your pocket or whatever. But I feel like that's for someone. So if it's for you, have it. They're also saying, you can do so many things with that. Like, it doesn't just have to be about your self-worth. When it comes to your energy protection, it can be about anything any belief that you want to change about yourself. They're saying to put it in your bra because it's close to your heart. So if you don't wear a bra, you could have a necklace and put it in your necklace or something like that. Okay. The final part of this mega video is spiritual protection. Okay, so spiritual protection is all the stuff we've talked about. All of this you can bring into your spiritual path. You can bring all of this to your card reading. You can bring all of this to your old day. You can bring all of this to your whole life. But let's talk specifically about a couple of the woo-woo things. So there can be a lot of fear around working with opening up your third eye, which we did last month, just opening up your spiritual abilities in general. There can be a lot of fear around that. And what's really important when it comes to doing this advanced spiritual stuff is that we try not to get into that fear as much as possible. And I know that's easy to say and it's a bit different to do, but there really is nothing to fear. Like, nothing can really get you unless you believe it can get you. And if you are really working with your guides and your angels and your higher self and whatever, you know, like, you're going to be okay. And sometimes weird things do happen. Sometimes weird things do come in, no matter how, you know, how much of this work you do. Sometimes it does happen. And when it's happened for me, there's been times when I've just been totally freaked out and I'm like, why would you let that through? Like, why? Why did you let that happen? And then later on, I kind of understand that, well, that was something I needed to experience for whatever reason. That happened to me once doing a tarot reading many years ago when I kind of started to read for other people. There was something really creepy that came through. I didn't even really know what it was, but I totally flipped out. And, you know, I said, like, why did this happen? And my team kind of explained to me later on that, you know, this was just part of the work, and it was part of, you know, I don't really like to use the word test, but it kind of was like, you know, part of the initiation. It's like, well, what are you going to do if this happens? How are you going to handle it? I didn't handle it that well, freaked out, and I ran into the garden and I put all of my tarot cards in the sun to get the light onto them. But, you know, they were like, that's great. You did, you know, you did something. You didn't just freak out and shut the deck and say, I'm never reading again. So those sorts of things will happen from time to time. But it's really important that even if we do get into that fear energy, that we try to move out of it as quick as possible. There are lots of things you can do to help you with that. You can call on angels. I love Archangel Michael for protection. He's just the bestest. You can also work with your gatekeeper, which we talked about last month as well. You can work with your gatekeeper guide. Any of your guides and angels, your ancestors are really good too for keeping you safe when you're doing spiritual work. What I always do whenever well, first thing in the morning, I call them all in, really. But when you're doing spiritual work, when I'm doing spiritual work, I always call in my guides and angels. I always clear, ground, and protect my energy before I pull a card for myself or somebody else, especially for somebody else. So that's like a really big part of it. It's important that you understand what the energy is as well, because sometimes we get into like fear and it's actually not really necessary. It's because we have been programmed to believe that that thing's fearful. For example, I remember I was in a meditation and I had some galactic guides come in who appeared to be very reptilian, and it honestly like freaked me out because I'd been so programmed to believe that reptilian aliens were really bad. And so at the time it really freaked me out. And then, you know, kind of much later, well, not even that much later, a few months later, a year later or something, I started to understand there's a lot more going on there than just that they were coming in to freak me out. So I'm just trying to understand like what this energy is. It's really important. And this happened recently to me too with a sort of ghosty kind of situation where I kind of got into fear around an energy that I knew was present. And I tried to really not give it any power or thought at all. And it was kind of, you know, a bit later that I kind of had to like come back to myself and say, hang on, like, why am I getting into fear about this when I have all these tools and all these abilities and knowledge to be able to do other things? So, you know, in the end, I kind of sent this energy just so much love. And that alone just felt like it went away after that. Not because I got rid of it with love, but the fear went away and it was like, well, now we can just be here in this place together and it's fine, it's okay. A lot of the time with sort of like ghosty kind of energies, you know, you need to do what feels safe for you, of course, but a lot of the time it's, you know, these energies just really are feeling really lost and sad and alone and scared. Not always, but a lot of the time they are. And so sending them some love and some angels and trying to support their transition, if that's what they want to do, can be really, really helpful for them and for you as well. And it certainly is a heck of a lot better than getting into fear about stuff. Okay, so the last thing that you want to do when it comes to spiritual boundaries, and we did talk about this a little bit in Clairvoyance Month as well, this is about getting really clear with your guides and your angels on what you will allow in and what you won't. Again, it's all about boundaries, and it's really sitting down with your guides. You can write this down like we did last month if you were here. You can write this down as a letter, as a statement, or you can just say out loud to them, guides, I want to be open, but I want you to protect me from this, this, and this. I don't want to see a ghost. I don't want to have to deal with this. I'm not ready for this. So please protect me from those things. And just getting really, really clear. This is something that I've been talking about a lot lately. I feel like I'm going to talk more and more about this. It's really important that we remember that we are in control, that we decide what comes in, that we decide what we're going to accept into our energy fields, into our life. We have the power to do that, and it is about so much more than just putting up a shield of light and saying, well, here's my shield of light, and only things that can come through are the things that are love or the things that are in alignment with my best and highest good. That is great to do, and I do that all the time, but what is even more powerful is to remember that we are the ones driving this meat body, like our soul, our mind, like we are in this body and we control it. We control what we put out, and we control what we bring in for the most part. And when we remember that, that is really the energy protection. It really is just about us remembering how much power we have to make choices in this life, to make choices about what we put out, and to make choices about what we accept and what we let in. And that is really it. This was a long one. I'm really sorry. I've been trying to keep these to like 20 minutes, half an hour, but the last few topics have been quite big. And as you may know, I get a little bit rambly, and I tried to not get rambly by having notes and really being like, you can talk about this and this and this, but I don't know, maybe there was just a lot to say in this one. I hope it was useful. I hope it served you. I hope that it's helped you to start thinking about your energy protection in a newer way. And you know, this is just like with everything that I share, this is just my experience, some of my thoughts on it. You can head over to the workbook if you haven't already done it, and there'll be lots of opportunity there for you to dive even deeper into this topic, and to dive even deeper into like what it really is for you and how you can really get to the next level with your energy protection. Because yeah, I want you to I want you to get to the next level, and I want you to feel so much better, because there's so many of us who are doing the visualizations and we're doing all the basic stuff, but we're not getting to that next level of consciousness and understanding that actually it's not just about doing using the magical tools. It's about really standing in our power and making those choices. That is where the real energy work comes in. Okay, gorgeous souls. That's it from me in this long, rambly video. I'm going to try it in whatever, I don't know what topic we're doing next month, but I'm going to try and make it a little bit shorter because I want these to be easily digestible. So I will be trying to keep them shorter from now on, but I guess this was long because it needed to be, I hope, unless I'm just really too rambly. Maybe I need to watch that as well. Okay, I'm sending you so much love and light.